Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome. Hope you're doing great. So today I'm working on building up some soil. Of course, that means working in the compost pile. I'm gonna show you a few things that I'm working on right now and kind of show you what the pile looks like. It's actually been raining. Cats and dogs these last few weeks have a couple of really good storms come through. We flattened off the top before. I've been piling it up recently. We made a little pit in the top, try to catch as much of that rain as we could to soak up this pile. And some areas are looking really good. The moisture is there. I'm seeing some increased breakdown. And so right now I'm going to show you how I'd like to speed things up. Of course, I have other videos on this where you hear me talk about it, but really it's all about getting a great combination of green material. That's all your fresh growth, all your fresh greens, your brown material, all your dry branches, sticks, twigs, old leaves, dry stuff, right? That's your carbon, your nitrogen, of course, some moisture, some water, and some oxygen. Over time, as it breaks down occurs, sometimes you lose some of those things where the balance gets thrown out of whack. And for me, I noticed the balance was off in certain pockets of the compost pile out here in the landscape. Some areas were wet and moist and seemed like there was great breakdown. As I dig in there, you'd see steam escaping and the heat was really good. But this pile is pretty large, and I noticed there's some pockets as I was digging in that didn't look right. So let's get a closer look and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's a close-up of our compost pile. You see here, it's a good mixture. We got some long clippings, even some old fruit I just piled up in there. Good mixture. We have a orchard and a vegetable garden out here, so we have plenty of brown material, sticks and twigs when we do our harvesting, or actually our pruning after harvest, and all that. So we have a pretty good mixture. The problem is that sometimes things get layered in here in mass, in batches, and sometimes things aren't chopped up as well as they should. So today's video, really, it's all about the power of mixing your compost. Some people call flipping, turning your compost. And that's really what today's video is all about, is how helpful flipping that compost and chopping up that matter really is, even if you don't change your combination of, even if you don't add anything else. In other videos, you see me add in, different materials to try to reach a better balance. But for now, I'm gonna really focus on just the power of flipping that compost. Because here's what I wanna show you. And I know it's kind of hard with the light right here. But you can see right here, you see the rain has been pouring in. We're out here in Northern California, and we've had some great storms. And so now we're getting some wonderful breakdown. The moisture is penetrated into the pile a bit, and I'm noticing that. And what's great is it's really speeding things up, and it's breaking stuff back down. We're getting some good microbial action, right? We want that bacteria just going nuts. But check this out, for all that rain and for all that we've done to try to capture that rain, look how dry some of this material still is. I mean, look at this, just bone dry, bone dry. So we have big swaths of grass clippings that we've had in here. You can see here's from past fruit trees that we had pruned. So what I'm gonna do today is we're gonna dig all this out, break it apart. I've actually been piling it up, so let me show you. So anything that I've been pulling out of there that's too dry, gets chopped up and mixed, and you can see that I've kind of been pulling it out from away from the pile. Hopefully you can hear me over that airplane. But of course, you can see I've been pulling out all this carbon, all the dry material, the brown material, and a lot of it got thrown into the pile in haste, I'm sure. And so it just got piled up so thickly in different layers that they were never chopped, never kind of incorporated or mixed together, because really it's about having them kind of mixed together in harmony and then letting that moisture and those microbes kind of do their things. That way the bacteria and the fungi and the invertebrates can just go wild. But right here, you can see at the heart of our pile, with all that rain, it is still super duper dry, right? Not just dry, it's super duper dry. And so that's a problem, because it's just gonna slow things down. I wanna be able to harvest some of this compost in the near future. And so if I don't do anything, this will break down and it will decompose, but it's gonna take a lot longer than it should. So really, I wanna talk to you about how important it is to break these apart, chop them up, mix them back into the material. We don't wanna have big patches. See, even this grass is good, but it's so dry that it's acting like a big roof to this pile. So as the rain comes down, it's just shedding off the pile. Even when we had a big pit in the top of the pile, it just wasn't enough. Some folks say that you might would suggest, hey, flatten out your pile as much as you can to catch all that rain and then pile it back up, and that would be helpful. But we only have so much surface area out here right in this little pocket. This is the only little corner that we have for this compost, and it's already occupying probably more space than it should, which is another reason why I want to speed things up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop that up, pull it apart. I'm going to kind of separate some of that brown material, all the biggest pieces, and I'm literally going to go through there with my my loppers and my sharpened shovel and I'm gonna chop and break this. If you have like a little shredder at home, that might be speeding things up for you. I know, I wish I had one here, but that's a good workout, good exercise for me and the students. So we're gonna break those up into smaller and smaller pieces, and that way a piece like this, when it's done, will just be, you know, maybe looking like this, maybe just a few inches long, just smaller. They don't have to be put into tiny wood chips. You just don't want big, massive branches and chunks that are just still, you know, basically whole. We're gonna break these apart, snap them on down, chop them up, and then not just leave them in a pile, but really it's all about blending them in to the other material. We're gonna add some moisture, we're gonna pile it back up, and then life's gonna be good. So let me get to work. I hope you're composting at home, or if you know the value of composting, it's so worth the effort. I know it's a little bit of exercise out here, and you don't necessarily have to do this, like I said, but is this really gonna drastically speed up the process? And that's what we want. We want good compost, and the spring is on its way. So we're gonna do all that we can to speed things up, to really hopefully get the best out of this. So for us, it's chopping, it's mixing, and it's flipping that compost. I'm telling you folks, if you haven't flipped a compost before, you need to go flip out a little bit, because it'll really help you out. For me, it just kind of helps bring things into balance and will speed things up, even without having to make an adjustment necessarily with adding more material. The one thing we're gonna be adding basically with this flipping is a lot of oxygen. We're gonna be adding a lot more surface area inside for all that material. As you break it apart, it opens up more surface area to basically be broken down by all the fungi, the bacteria, invertebrates, and that's what we want. And then the one last thing we're probably gonna be adding is actually some water as well, because I've noticed how just bone dry some of these areas are. As I mix them back in, it's important just to kind of rebalance things out, get that moisture back in there, so we can get those, like I said, all that fungi, bacteria, the FBI, the fungi, bacteria, inverts. We want them to do well and be happy, because when we're done, we want to be able to reach in here and pull out really rich, black, just awesome. You can see this already. See all that, the mycelium, that discoloration. That's great. That's what we're after, and that's what we want everywhere. You see right here, here's a branch that is now decomposing and decaying, and so you can see all that going on, and that's what we want for the other areas of our pile. So not nearly as warm as I want it to get, but you can see it's already heating back up pretty quickly. It's freezing cold outside. You wouldn't tell by that sunshine, but it is extra chilly winter morning. You can see I've been chopping and mixing, and so what we started with is, as you saw earlier, is a lot of just too much carbon piled up, a lot of just too much dry material in one place. And so what I've been doing is, as you can see, we've been digging out. I still got some more work to go for sure, but just the sheer fact of getting it blended up, and you can kind of see the mixture that we have now, is that things are a little more homogenized and blended together. Everything's touching. There's wet material, there's green material, there's the dry brown material. Anything that was too large is getting chopped, and I'm probably gonna come in here and do some more chopping away and mixing. You can see I'm about halfway through the pile here. If you can see through my shadow, you can see that where we just have a lot of carbon, a lot of dry material. There was a ton of rain, like I mentioned, but it's just didn't penetrate through. So pretty cool to see that instantaneous effect, that just blending it up, mixing it up, and not letting big chunks of the pile just be one material. You want them blended together. And the pile was relatively cool in some spots, warmer than others. You can see getting some really good breakdown, but even just quickly getting it mixed up, even on a chilly day like this, and the pile isn't even that big in this location, it's already showing some signs of warmth. And so that's fantastic. That's what we want. We want the heat, we want faster breakdown, we want better ratio and balance to our pile, and that's what we're after today. We got to get in there. It's time to chop, it's time to flip, and time to mix. So I suggest you consider doing the same in your own compost piles if you haven't done already. It's something that we do a couple times a year out here, and it just really helps things out. Until next time, garden friends, happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing. Hey, let's look at the garden. Boom, there you go. That's what that compost does. See you next time, friends.